Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching Canal Algérie Midnight News, and these are our top stories. Prime Minister announced this Saturday the launch of structured workshops with taxi unions to tackle professional and social challenges in the transport sector. The Senegalese Football Federation has stepped up its criticism ahead the AFCON 2025 final game, raising serious concerns over organizational failures. Moroccan opposition to normalize with the Zionist entity, a contested policy seen as betrayal of the Palestinian cause. And the MC Algiers lifted the 2025 Algerian Super Cup after ending past rival USM Algiers 1-0 at the Nelson Mandela Stadium. Welcome back. First off, Prime Minister Sefir Riyab announced this Saturday the launch of structured workshops with the taxi unions to tackle professional and social challenges in the transport sector, backed by a clear timetable. Speaking just after the meeting, the Prime Minister said that the President of the Republic places a strong importance on the sector and expressed confidence in major improvements to working conditions and public services. Taxi drivers' representatives welcomed the move, calling it a step towards building trust, while traders' unions described it as evidence of government's commitment to dialogue with social partners. The first qualifying round of the Algerian Mathematics Olympiad has been launched in Algiers this Saturday under the supervision of the Minister of National Education. Nearly 285,000 students are taking part as organisers seek to identify and train a national team to compete in regional and continental competitions. The initiative aimed to strengthen Algeria's presence in the international scientific stage and promote a culture of excellence and innovation in schools. On the international scene, Gaza continues to come under sustained Zionist attacks, further undermining a fragile ceasefire. Civilians are being killed daily, with children among the most vulnerable, most dying not from bombardment but also from bitter cold condition, hunger and collapse of basic services. Rani Al-Bahri.
Following the implementation of the second phase of the ceasefire agreement, the Zionist occupation continues to escalate its attacks on Palestinian civilians. More than 10 mortars have been transferred to hospitals in Gaza following a series of airstrikes carried out by occupation warplanes. Since the ceasefire agreement, UNICEF reports that more than 100 children have been killed by the occupation army. Amnesty International denounces and condemns the Zionist entity, which continues to perpetrate genocide against Palestinians despite the ceasefire.
Je voulais juste vous alerter sur le fait que le cessez-le-feu à Gaza annoncé...
The ceasefire in Gaza announced 3 months ago is not being enforced. Since October 10th, 450 Palestinians, including over 100 children, have been killed as the Zionist entity continues its destruction campaign, leaving most Gazans in tents, deprived of basic needs, while humanitarian aid remains critically insufficient. The genocide in Palestine continues. Despite the sham ceasefire, at least 440 Palestinians, including 100 children, have been killed by the Zionist army in the past 3 months. A ceasefire in which a child is killed almost every day is not ceasefire. The occupation raids have mainly targeted civilian homes in Tel el-Balah and the Nusayrat refugee camp in central Gaza, leaving no doubt that the occupying army intends to continue deep military operations in Gaza. This constitutes a declaration of war by the Zionist entity in the last 24 hours. Its message is clear. It rejects the second phase of the ceasefire and is determined to continue the massacre. The situation requires genuine international pressure on the Zionist occupation to fully implement the obligations of the second phase, as it is currently attempting to evade its ceasefire commitments. The repeated ceasefire violations by the Zionist entity are provoking strong reactions. The attacks almost systematically target civilian areas. The occupation continues to impose inhumane living conditions on the Palestinians.
In another news, the Senegalese Football Federation has stepped up its criticism ahead of the AFCON 2025 final game, raising serious concerns over what it calls organizational failure, including security arrangements, accommodation, training facilities and ticketing. The federation described the situation as way below the standards expected. Morocco's policy of normalization with the Zionist entity has sparked widespread controversy and public opposition. Far from remaining a symbolic diplomatic move, this choice has translated into concrete military security and economic cooperation, raising serious concerns about sovereignty, accountability and regional alignment. Rani al-Bahri once again.
5 years after Morocco signed normalization agreements with the Zionist entity, the reality is undeniable. What was presented as a simple diplomatic choice has slowly turned into deep military and security cooperation with an occupying force regularly accused of crimes against civilians. Despite strong rejection by the Moroccan people, the Makhzen recently signed a new military agreement. This step shows a worrying political drift, ignoring both the will of the people and Morocco's long-standing values of solidarity and regional responsibility. This cooperation is no longer limited to diplomacy. It now includes security coordination, technology transfers, and strategic planning. All this happens while the Zionist army continues its attack on civilians in Palestine, showing shocking parallels with the Makhzen's own actions in Western Sahara. This partnership isn't only a betrayal of a just cause, it's also a clear disregard for public opinion. Many Moroccans continue to reject normalization and express solidarity with the oppressed. The choices being made in the name of diplomacy today raise serious questions about the country's values, priorities, and conscience. The Moroccan people deserve better, and history will remember how these decisions were made.
And we wrap up our edition with the football. The MC Algiers lifted the 2025 Algerian Super Cup after edging past rival USM Algiers 1-0 at the Nelson Mandela Stadium. Zakaria Neji scored the decisive goal in the 74th minute of the game, sealing MCA's 5th Super Cup and their 2nd in a row.
هستيرية لا توصف في أجواء خرافية هنا في ملعب نيلسون مانديلا. مبروك لمولودية الجزائر هذه اللحظة التاريخية التي كان ينتظرها.
Well, that was it for tonight. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for staying in with Canal Algérie. Stay tuned with Canal Algérie. Goodbye for now.